Today, America chooses to cut loose the shackles of the past.
It is the most significant development in U.S.-Cuban relations in 50 years. President Obama announcing that he is reestablishing diplomatic relations with the communist island nation.
New tonight, 24 News 8's Tom Hillen joins us with what these changes mean for some right here in West Michigan, Tom.
Well, good evening, Brian and Marley. Tonight I was able to speak with two West Michigan men. Mark Bolin has made nearly 100 trips to Cuba to deliver medical supplies, and he's excited about these changes. Now, Carlos Hidalgo grew up in Cuba. He's from Grand Rapids. Tonight, he told me he was deeply conflicted.
Was born in Havana, Cuba.
Carlos Hidalgo says he grew up in a beautiful home on the ocean.
In 1959, things fell apart. All of a sudden, Castro came in, firing squad started. I remember being in school as a seventh grader, and TVs being brought in, and we were made to watch live executions.
In 1960, as a teen, he fled to the U.S., leaving behind his mom, dad, and sister. Hidalgo says he is conflicted over today's announcement.
Because on one side, it says that the country that I love, the United States, is shaking hands with its tyrannical regime. It would be like saying, okay, so now we're going to have diplomatic relations with North Korea. I think that that would conflict a lot of folks. On the other side, there is the Cuban people. And the Cuban people are really the victims. If this is going to help them and their children, then I'm for it.
Mark Bolin is the executive director of First Hand Aid, a West Michigan humanitarian organization that brings medical supplies to Cuba.
I think it's a great thing. I think it's a move in the right direction.
Bolin has been to Cuba 87 times and just returned from a trip there 3 weeks ago.
I think it will be easier to transport medicine, less restrictive on what we're transporting. On the Cuban side, I think it'll just be easier to do work and come into the borders in general.
Now, both Carlos and Mark told me tonight that they hope that this is just the beginning and ultimately this leads to the Cuban people experiencing the same freedoms that we experience here in America.
Yeah, and we were saying earlier, the conflicting emotions that Carlos has, that's what you're seeing playing out in Washington. We're seeing playing out in Miami.
Absolutely. People are very, divided on this issue, especially some of those Cuban people that had to flee that country and come here. These are it's a very high emotional state right now. But one thing that Carlos said to me that really stood out is said, I want to thank all Americans because they have welcomed so many Cubans here with open arms, as all they've asked us to do is just work our best.
Right.
Yep. Let's hope this works for the best.
Absolutely.
Tom Hillen, thank you. So what does normalizing relations between the countries really mean? What will it look like? Well, the U.S. government is reopening an embassy in Havana. They're also easing travel bans on family visits, official government business, and educational activities, though tourist travel remains banned. American travelers will now be able to return to the U.S. with $400 in Cuban goods. That includes tobacco and alcohol, meaning that long-standing ban on Cuban cigars is over, although there are still limits. And the U.S. is also increasing the amount of money that Americans can send to Cuba from $500 to $2,000 per quarter.